So our Detroit Pistons are exactly 26 days away from our preseason home opener against the Milwaukee Bucks. And I wanted to explain to you guys why this 5-game schedule that the Pistons have for the 2024-25 season is the most important preseason we've had in years. Let's go.
Detroit basketball!
Let's be honest, guys. I don't put a lot of stock into the preseason, but this season is different. I talked about expectations for us. I think realistically, we can win 30 games this year, but I can tell you if we don't get it together with our new coaching staff and some of our new regime and form an identity for this team, we will end up in the same boat that we were in last year. And luck hasn't been good with us when we're winning 12 to 15 games a season. So we really need to take a step forward this season and double our win total. And this preseason is pretty important to how we're going to do that. We open up the preseason against the Bucks and then follow that up with the Suns at home 2 days later. Then we have sort of a home/neutral site game 3 days later against the same team in the Suns. And then we go on the road to play the Warriors in San Francisco. I think that's a very important game for our team, and I'll explain why shortly. And then we close out the preseason back at home in Detroit against the Cavs. Traveling is a very important part of winning in the league, and I think it's very important that we go out there to San Francisco and show up ready to play. Winning and losing doesn't matter in the preseason, but our young guys need to learn how to be professionals and get on a schedule. So why is this preseason so important? We already discussed this in the past, but the Pistons are, bar none, a bottom 3 feeder when it comes to defensive efficiency and overall defense in the NBA. If you guys remember our championship teams, if you've lived through that, it was built on an identity, and that identity was toughness and defense. This team is not built to outscore teams. We have the athletes on the wings and at the point guard and down low to become a better defensive team, and I think it's very, very vital that JB Bickerstaff establishes defensive principles with this team. That might include taking superstars out the game if they miss rotations or they can't keep their man in front of them. And we can't have it both ways, guys. We got to be able to let our coaches coach, especially if they're going to be establishing us as a defensive-minded team. This also gives JB Bickerstaff the opportunity to figure out lineups and work on rotations that we spoke about in a previous video of mine. If you didn't watch that, check the link out at the top right, and we'll go over some of the lineups the Pistons can use this season to help us win 30 games. As far as the players go, I think preseason is more important to the younger guys than some of the veterans we have, but overall, we're a really young team, so getting those young guys that we just drafted, even guys that we had on the team last year, into game shape is extremely important. It's very different getting bumped and having to cut as opposed to just practicing in a gym or playing pickup ball. The pace, it picks up as the season goes, and you guys know those first 30 games, pretty much before the Christmas break, the intensity level rises tremendously after the Christmas break. So we want to be a team that tries to take advantage and make hay when the sun shines early in the season. We're young enough to come in shape, getting up and down the floor and playing some defense. Also, we have a lot of young guys on this team, and as you know, every team has a bunch of players that come in that are extremely talented. The good teams figure out what the players' roles are, and those players fill in those roles. That's not just on coaching, guys. That's on the players also to buy in and make sure winning comes first. That's why it's important to really stress test this team early, figure out if guys are going to buy into their roles, and if not, the trading deadline will be extremely important. I don't want to get ahead of myself, though. I like this roster, and I think we can do some things this year. But if you guys remember a few years ago, we had Jeremy Grant, and some of you guys were really begging to get him back on the team. But internally, the issue was Jeremy Grant thought he was the man, while we had the number 1 pick, Cade Cunningham, who was clearly our best player at the time on the team. We can't have that on this team this year. We need to make sure that Cade is the man, but he has to lead defensively and offensively, and then our other players fill in their roles and do them very well and understand what those roles are before they get in the game, and we execute better. But everything for this team is going to start with defense. Establishing chemistry amongst each lineup and the entire team will be vital to this young team's success. For those that are optimistic about this season, me being one of those people, I want to be realistic with you guys at the same time. We have a new coaching staff, a new regime in the front office, and a new GM with a new vision, and we got a really young roster. Yes, we are talented, but we haven't been able to put it together, and we damn sure don't know how to close games. This preseason is the most important preseason that we've had in years because the expectations have raised for the team just slightly, and we're going into a gauntlet to start the season. The regular season, we start off with 7 of our first 10 games against playoff teams from last year. So it is very possible that we start off the 2024-25 season 0-10. Now let me give some perspective. Can you really expect the Pistons 2 consecutive seasons to go into 21 games leading in the fourth quarter and lose all of them again? I don't think so. I think we're a much improved team. I think our roster is just 1 year better. And I think we got a much better and more engaged coaching staff to make sure that this young team gels, and we will get the rotations right. We will make sure that our players are bought in, and if they don't, I don't think Trajan Langdon's going to be afraid to pull the trigger and make a good trade for this team and this organization at or before the trade deadline, no matter how the season's going. We talked about some of the things in previous videos about things that lose teams games in this league, and Cade Cunningham has got to stop turning the ball over at the top of the key, giving run-out layups for the team unchallenged. We must have buy-in and good rotation, starting with some of our best athletes. We have long athletes on the wings and at the top of the key, and we should be bringing them down to Jalen Duren, and he has to be more engaged defensively to make sure he's diverting and blocking some of those shots, making it more difficult for teams to finish in the paint on us. We spent a lot of time last year talking about the shooting on the perimeter for this team. We're much improved from that standpoint on paper, but we've got to get guys in the right places, and Cade has to get them the ball in their pockets to make sure they get good, clean looks, because the focus should be on Cade Cunningham. His ability to get into the paint and draw the defense and or finish should be a big asset to the offense this season, but I'll bring it back like I keep saying, we need to play better defense as a team. Our coaching staff needs to be more engaged in making in-game adjustments, figuring out the right lineups, and we should not spend a quarter of our season scratching our heads about some of the lineups that they're putting in, i.e. Killian Hayes starting for us in the NBA. Let's be serious. So the 7 things I'll be looking forward to us starting to establish as a team going into the preseason and into the regular season for 2024-25 is Cade needs to step up. Is he just a star, or is he going to become that superstar that can pull this team and drag them into the playoffs? Number 2, can the defense take a big leap forward? I think we have the players, we have the athleticism, but we need to establish an identity as a team, and I think it needs to be defense. Number 3, our coaching staff will have to define roles for the players. Number 4, the role players need to play within their role and excel in it. 5, the organization needs to hold players that aren't bought in accountable no matter who they are. 6, the coaching staff will have to establish rotations. And number 7, we need to learn how to close games out in the fourth quarter. To lose 21 games in an 82-game season where we're going into the fourth quarter ahead is unacceptable out of this team, and I think we'll turn that around. If we do half of these 7 things, I think we can kind of lock ourselves into doubling our win total, but we should be looking higher than that. So remember these 7 things as we head into our 5-game preseason right before the gauntlet that begins our 2024-25 NBA season. I'd really like to hear you guys' perspective on this though, so please leave your comments below. Also, please don't forget to like this video and subscribe to my page, as I'll bring you a very unique perspective in the regular season on each Pistons game of why we're winning or losing games. See you all next time. Thanks for watching.
I ain't no skater, but I skate on the beat. That's the only time I take breaks. On my cartoon, by the way I make cartoons.